And let's get started. Welcome to everyone. Please drop in the chat where you're joining us from today. We would love to see where you are. We are getting ready to have a great session, a whole hour with Adecco and the Adecco Group of companies. You will see various names representing the Adecco Foundation, the group, and various names that you will become familiar with. We are excited that today you are interested in hearing top 5 tips from women in leadership at Adecco. And we hope that in this conversation and sharing, you will pick up on some tips that will work for you going forward. So go ahead, keep dropping in the chat where you are joining us from today. We are going to get started in another minute. And we are so happy that you took the time to join us today. If you don't have pen and paper, I suggest that you grab something to make a few notes, because there are several great nuggets that will be shared today that you don't want to miss. Okay, in the interest of time and making sure that we use every minute wisely, we're going to go ahead and get started. And so I want to, just from a housekeeping standpoint, we want you to stay on mute. If you can activate your cameras and join us in community, we would love to see your beautiful faces. If you can put your view on speaker, we're going to spotlight our guest speakers and presenters so that you have them center screen. Right now, it gives me great pleasure to reintroduce, because if you've been with us all month, you know Lane Gandy. Lane is the director of the Adecco Group, the U.S. Foundation, and she has joined us for every one of the workshops where Adecco has led the content. So Lane, I'm going to turn this over to you. Thank you again for being with us, and your mic is open.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for that warm introduction. And hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you all here with us today. I am so excited about this session. We have had a packed month of information. But before, just as Natalie said, I'm the director of the Adecco Group U.S. Foundation, and I help lead our partnership with Dress for Success. And if you're not familiar with the Adecco Group or the Adecco Group U.S. Foundation, I want to give you just a quick overview. The Adecco Group is one of the largest staffing companies in the world. And our mission, as well as the mission of the foundation, is to help make the future work for everyone. We have 3 main business lines that operate in North America. Acodus, specializing in placing IT and engineering positions. LHH, Lee Hecht Harrison, specializing in professional recruitment solutions, talent consulting, and outplacement services. And finally, Adecco Staffing, that you probably know from that Adecco red logo. And we have 2 of our leaders here today from both Canada and the head of our North America operations. The Adecco Group U.S. Foundation is the nonprofit charitable giving arm of the Adecco Group, and we align closely to make sure that we have partners that align with that mission of making the future work for everyone, because we believe in 3 main things. We believe in making the power of work and offering free education opportunities to upskill and reskill you into the jobs of your dreams and achieve your career aspirations. We believe in work equality and that everybody should have access to work, which is why we love partners like Dress for Success, who are helping to get women jobs every single day and gain economic independence. And we believe in giving back. We partner with organizations around the country who are working on giving back to others in need. And this is our 4th year of partnership with Dress for Success as our national charity, which is why we have been so passionate about our month of learning. And if you haven't been with us for the whole month, here's a glimpse of where we've been. We've been on a mission to get you ready for your next career step. Starting first with looking at your resume and understanding, are there a couple of gaps that I have? We've brought in our experts from the Aspire Academy, which is our entire library of over 30 career upskilling and reskilling courses that are available to you absolutely free. If you have questions about that, please go back and reference that information. The decks are up on Dress for Success's website. We then moved into a little bit more of a personal branding discussion, understanding what makes you unique and how you can communicate that to your next potential employer. Then we got all of your questions about job searches answered last week with our panel of expert recruiters, making sure that you know what you need to do to get ready for your interview, how you need to update your resume, and what to do when you're ready to accept that job. Finally, we have our leaders here today from the Adecco Group who are ready to answer the question that they probably get asked most when they're sitting down and just meeting somebody new on a plane, in a restaurant, or just out at the park. What's the best piece of career advice that you can give? They're going to share their inside secrets with you. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. But before I do that, I want to just give you a little bit of an understanding of how our conversation is going to flow today. First, we're going to have a panel and they're going to share their career advice with you. Then we're going to open it up for 20 to 25 minutes of Q&A. We want to make sure that you make the most of the time of picking their brain about their career advice that they can offer you and how you can make that work in your own career. If you have questions about how to get in touch with the Adecco Group, we see that often in the chat come across, how to get in touch with somebody for a resume review, a mock interview, or questions about job search. We're going to add a link at the end of this, that gives you a form that you can complete and we'll get in touch with you. We want to make sure that we give you guys opportunity to get in touch with us afterward, but I wanted to put that question to bed right at the beginning of the chat because we know that it's a burning question for all of you. So thank you so much for letting me do a quick introduction, but now it's time to get to the stars of the show. I'm going to introduce our panelists now in alphabetical order, starting off with Janelle Beeler. Janelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lane. My name is Janelle Beeler, and I am the head of Adecco Canada, the organization up north. I saw somebody in the chat that's visiting us also from Toronto, so it's great to see some other Canadians on the call. I'm actually been with Adecco for about 8 years, and I started my career with Adecco in the US, so I've only been in Canada for about the last year and a half. I love this topic today in terms of sharing tips and career advice that we've been given. Although I've been at Adecco for the past 8 years, my career actually started in more of the retail and service industry. I've worked in the technology sector. I've worked now in the staffing industry. I've worked in startups. I've worked in large organizations and have had just a real diversity of experience, both inside Adecco and outside. So I'm thrilled to be here today and to be part of the conversation. Thank you for having me.
We're happy to have you. All right, let me move over to our next panelist and leader, Lori Chamberlain.
Hello, and thank you for having me. And I, like Janelle, have had about every job under the sun, but I think I have her beat in the Adecco Group. I run LHH Recruitment Solutions in North America, which includes Canada. And I've had just about every role in the organization: recruiting, sales, leadership, acquisitions, and then some. But when you've been with the company since 1999, you hope to say something like that. So, but before I started at the company, I worked in law firms, and even as a student, I was always a learner and a worker. I've had paper routes, I've waited tables, I've done all kinds of things. So I think the thing that people think is that there's some kind of fast track, and really it's a lot of hard work to get to where you are, and a lot of enrichment experiences. In terms of what I love so much about LHH Recruitment Solutions is that we really do transform lives, because we're looking at people who've spent a lot of time and money on their education and thinking about their career path. And we place accounting professionals, legal professionals, marketing, IT, people who really want a career path in a professional level. So that's what LHH does. Thank you, Lee, for having me.
Well, thank you, Lori, for being here. Next up, we have Marcia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcia Custodio. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I've been with Acotis, which was recently called Modus up until a few months ago, for 15 years. I'm currently the director of North American sales as it pertains to our Tech Academy. So any upskilling or reskilling solutions that I did start in this industry back in 1998. My life has taken a lot of twists and turns, both professionally and personally. So just to give you a little bit of a background, and being, my authentic self here, prior to joining the Modus organization, I was going through a life transition where I essentially was starting my life over, was decided to get a divorce, had a 2-year-old toddler, was living in New Zealand at the time, and essentially had 7 boxes to my name and moved back to the States. So start from scratch, single mom, small toddler, and I started in this career and, learned a lot of lessons, had to give myself a lot of grace, because I think as females, we're really hard on ourselves about decisions that we make, especially when we have a child in the room. So I'm excited to be here to share that journey with you a little bit more about the lessons that I've learned, and to give everybody permission to give yourself grace and to know that it's never too late to start over, change your mind, or make better decisions for yourself. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marcia. That was a message that I needed to hear too today. I think we all probably did, to give ourselves some grace at the same time that we're going to learn. So moving over, let's go ahead and introduce Joyce.
Thank you, Lane. It's so great to be with all of you on the call. I'm calling in from Charlotte, North Carolina, where the storm is supposed to head right up this way this weekend, but it's great to be here. I joined the Adecco Group over 35 years ago, and it's just been the most amazing journey. But just like others on the phone, didn't start at the job I ended at. I actually graduated from college and walked in to be a temporary associate. And when you think about work with Adecco, there are 2 different arms. One is you could take a temp job, which is what I came in to do because I was going to live one place, but then move to another. So it gave me the great opportunity to work with a lot of companies in that market before I made the move. And then we have another business unit within the Adecco Group that just does direct placement. So whether you're thinking about, let me try a couple companies out, or I want just one job with one company, these individuals on the phone today can help you make that connection. But it's so great to be with you, and I can't wait to share my tip in just a few minutes. So thank you, Lane, for having me.
Of course, thank you, Joyce, for being here. All right, now I know we have to go over to Eileen, last but not least.
Well, hello, everyone. Excited to be here. I am the newbie to the Adecco Group. I am the president of North America Adecco, and I joined not even a year ago. My tenured career is quite the windy path. I started on the manufacturing floor as an engineer making aircraft engines that fly the planes. I then went to make cake mix for Procter & Gamble at Duncan Hines, a brand that they no longer have, but I still buy on the shelves. And then I went and made manufactured cars for Toyota. I got into technology and services because my background is engineering, and I've been in the tech world for a long time. And a year ago, I was approached about coming over to Adecco, and the COVID really impacted me in terms of, not from a career perspective, but I saw a lot of my family and friends being impacted. And I felt, you know what, it's time to go put people to work. And I believe in that mission and what we do, whether it's a permanent job that you're looking for or a temporary job to make ends meet, or because you're career transitioning and you want to try something different. So I talk about this, I don't know if you can see it, but I wear this smile necklace because one of my good friends who I've been in technology with for 20 years gave it to me because I was thinking, should I do this or should I not do it? And I don't look back. She goes, you're going to go put 30,000 people to work every week. So you're going to make people smile. So that's my story in terms of how I got to Adecco, and love every minute of it.
I love that. The smile necklace. I think I need one of those. I'm certainly smiling, and I know that you guys are quite the crew to have at a party, which is exactly what this is. This isn't really a panel, it's a party. So let's jump in, and I'm going to ask that burning question that I would kind of sidle on up to you guys and ask, which is, what is your best tip of career advice? And Lori, you're the first one in my purview, next window over. So I'm going to start with you. What is your best piece of career advice that you could give?
First of all, I just have to say, Eileen, that gave me chills. That just the whole thing of why you're here. So we're so excited you're here and love having you as a new colleague. So, Lane, thank you for asking that question. And you know, I will preface this by saying, as I've gotten older and gone further in my career, all three of these questions that I ask myself have to have an equivocal yes, unequivocal yes. Whereas when I was younger, maybe I only needed one of the questions to have a yes, because you have to be a little less choosy when you're younger in your career. But the first question I always ask myself is, do I like the people? And if I don't like the people, it's going to be really hard for me to be successful. And I've learned that over the years, that it doesn't matter how cool the money is or how cool the job sounds to my parents or whatever it is. If I don't like the people, I'm miserable and I'm not successful. The second question I ask myself is, am I going to learn something? Because I think women especially have a habit of doing things we already know how to do and things that we've already conquered, rather than stretching ourselves for that next thing. So I always ask myself, is there a component that makes me a little nervous? Is there a component that I think, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that piece? And if there's not a learning opportunity, then that's something that I'm also less liable to do. And then the last one is, can I make it fun? A lot of the life we live right now is super stressful. And I find that if I laugh every day, that I can make it fun, and I can make it fun for the people around me, even when we're in the trenches of something super serious. COVID, as you might imagine, took a toll on a staffing company. And how are we going to get people safely to work with masks and testing and all kinds of things? So there's no shortage of seriousness in our industry. But at the end of the day, if you're doing it with people that you love and you're learning something along the way, you can almost always laugh. And little tidbit, Joyce Russell told me that if you have a belly laugh, you burn 35 calories. So if you can't get to the gym, laughing is a good substitute. So thank you for asking the question, Lane.
Of course, I think that's a really good thing. I just practiced my belly laugh and I watched you all do it too. That's a great 3 questions, Lori. Janelle, what about you? What about your best piece of career advice?
I love Lori's questions, because I think that anytime that you're evaluating a new opportunity, you do have to ask yourself if it's making sense for you. And I saw some things coming up in the chat about purpose and meaning. Eileen touched on that, right? With the type of role that really makes you feel good about going to work every day. I think once you've asked yourself some of those basic questions around whether or not this is the right culture fit and learning fit for you, a bit of advice that was given to me is to surround yourself with a circle of trusted advisors that you can bounce ideas off of to really vet what you've sort of decided internally. A lot of times we tell ourselves our own internal story, and it helps to be able to talk to people that you trust to ask them if they agree. Now, that could be a mentor. I'm sure that all of us have different people in our lives that we ask advice from, whether it's an opportunity we're looking at within our own company or externally, but that can also be advocates. And I think sometimes we automatically think that a circle of trust are people that we look to as mentors, but advocates are also extremely important. And I feel like some of the best opportunities that have been open to me in my career have come to me because somebody, whether it was internal or external, advocated for me coming into a position and was willing to put themselves on the line to recommend me, to put my name forward and really help kind of get me that spotlight and that traction to get the opportunity. And then the last person that I would say that you always need in your circle of trust is sometimes you just need some cheerleaders. I think that we are hard on ourselves. We don't always give ourselves grace. And sometimes you need to make sure that you can call somebody up and have them pump you up when maybe you're a little bit down about your job search or the decision that you're trying to make. So I think for me, the 3 things that are most important in that circle of trust are a mentor, an advocate, and definitely a cheerleader.
That is so true. I always say having those people, I call them balcony people, Janelle. They're the people who are sitting up in the balcony and they're going to give you a standing ovation no matter what. And I do see that I have a lot of cheerleaders on this phone, and I know that you guys probably do in your network. Without further ado, Marcia, I'm going to ask you, what's your best piece of career advice that you could offer?
Absolutely. Well, just to kind of echo Janelle's statement, right, is find your trusted circle as quickly as possible, and then start expanding it, right? So one motto that I live by is your network is your net worth. I know for some of us, we're not natural networkers. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts. And so really this is about advocating for yourself and putting yourself in circles that are going to create opportunities for you in the future. So again, this could be via your personal branding online. So if you're not active on LinkedIn, I highly recommend and suggest that you do so. Start to follow or join groups that align with your passions, your goals, your aspirations, your interests. Post, find interesting articles, be active on LinkedIn, because if you are looking to change careers, if you are looking for your next opportunity, it's the first place employers go to see who are you, what do you do, and what things do you surround yourself with as far as your passions and your focus. And again, this is about, putting yourself sometimes in uncomfortable situations, like Lori was mentioning earlier. What's going to happen to, what can I do to stretch myself? And sometimes that is putting yourself into different groups, whether that's in person or virtually, to learn, grow, and meet new people, right? So you can't always surround yourself with the same people. You need to surround yourself with new people. And those are the people that are going to advocate for you. Those are the ones that are going to provide you and present opportunities for you. So more often than not, your next opportunity is going to come from a referral for someone that's advocating for you. So that's my piece of advice. I know when I had to start in this career and starting over, I had to stretch myself. I had to put myself in a lot of different awkward situations, especially being a double minority, being a woman, being a Hispanic woman, and being in an environment and an industry that's male dominated. It's all uncomfortable, but I've learned and grown from those experiences. And it's the thing that allowed me to give myself that grace, right? So sometimes you have to just pause and look back and say, you know what, I did all that, right? And give yourself some kudos and just keep pushing. So again, your network is your net worth. Invest in it. Take time. It takes time to develop, but it's all worth it. And it'll grow and it'll work in your favor.
That is great advice, Marcia. And I do love your story. And it is true. Those weak ties, those referrals that you think about, we didn't grow up and marry our best friend, most likely. Some of us definitely have that story, but you probably met a friend through a friend. And that's the same thing for jobs. That's what I always tell people. So that's perfect. Eileen, how about you? What about your best career advice?
My best career advice is learning how to use Zoom and Teams. No, I'm joking. I elevated the career advice I want to give you, and it started with a CFO of Federated Department Stores, the Macy's brand, and all of those stores. I was at a luncheon very early in my career. I was actually struggling with being a mom, being an engineer in that male-dominated world, and trying to spend time with kids and, there. And I was like, oh, I'll send the cookies or something like that. And she said to me, be the room mother, be the lead room mother, not the assistant room mother. And I kind of elevated that a little bit to be the lead and not the assistant. And let me tell you what that means. Because if you are the lead, whether you're the coach, you're the lead room mother, or you're leading something, you could be leading something at your church, you set it for your schedule that allows you to kind of balance your family life, your work life. If you're the assistant, you are always like, oh, I can't make that because I'm working or I have another commitment. So I'll share with you in my busy career, I was not the lead room mother. And she always said to me, like, make sure you're visible with your kids. Don't be the president of the PTA that meets at night, because then your kids aren't going to really see you with them. But I'll share with you in my career, I wasn't the lead room mother, but I managed to coach my daughter's volleyball team for 8 years. And I traveled Monday through Friday. And how did I do that? Because I said I would be the coach. And I said, if you want me to coach, I need Friday gym practices because our times were on the weekends. And I always made it home in time for Friday gym practices and being with the girls. But if I had been the assistant who wanted to have a coach on a Tuesday night gym class or something like that, Tuesday night gym, I would have never been able to do it. So whatever you choose to do with work and outside of work, try to be the lead to control the schedule, to make your schedule work around everything else. So that's my career advice. It's helped me with my career, but it's also helped me with that work-life balance. And, at some point you have to figure that out.
I think that's great advice, Eileen. And it definitely speaks to how you can try to make your your work-life balance work for you and not the other way around. It's really, really important. And it's hitting close to home today for me with a 11-month-old at home. So thank you for that. Joyce, how about you? Best career advice?
Lane, when you're the oldie on the call, you got a lot of advice for a lot of these amazing ladies. Just a few things to add on to what Lori, Janelle, Marcia, and Aline said is, we talked about your network is your net worth. But let's talk about friends are like elevators. They'll take you up or they'll take you down. So who are you hanging out with right now? I'm trying to hang out with positive, kind, nice people. This world is hard enough right now. So who are you hanging out with? The other thing I want to say is you're the average of your friends. So think about that as well. You become that average. So make sure that you're elevating yourself up both ways. The other thing when Marcia was speaking, she made me think about an Amy Cuddy quote. Don't fake it till you make it. Fake it till you become it. Become it. Step into that role. Just like she said, go for it. So I think we as females sometimes don't go for it, and we need to go for it right now. So just dovetailing onto what Eileen said, that's probably the most asked question that I get is, got married to David, had these 2 wonderful boys. Our company was growing like crazy because we were putting more and more people to work, and more great companies and great brands were asking us to find great people like you. And so it just kept growing and the responsibility was growing. And so you try to have that work-life balance. They talk a lot about that, but I thought of it like a seesaw, more family and friends at times, right? More family, more work at times. I can't be there. So I ended up borrowing a philosophy from a wonderful woman named Susie Welch. You all remember the great leader at GE named Jack Welch. Well, he married a great woman, Susie. And Susie rolled out a book called 10-10-10. And what that means is, how will this affect you in 10 minutes? How will that decision affect you in 10 months? And how will that decision affect you in 10 years? 10-10-10. So when my youngest child, Coleman, was a senior in high school, I had missed a lot of ball games, you all. We had grown the company. I was traveling like the rest of the ladies on the phone here all the time. And so Coleman came to David and I, and he said, I want one thing my senior year. I want you and Dad at these 10 home ball games. I want you to sit in the stands and see how hard I worked on the field. I want you to be there, Mom, because I know you and Dad are working hard, but I worked hard too at my school, and I want you to be there. So I promised him, ladies, that I would make those 10 home games. You've all been in that seat, right? In that stands, watching that child at those games. Well, as life would have it at Adecco, one of our customers had an emergency and needed me to be in Ohio. And I see several people on the phone from Ohio today. So I needed to be in Ohio, but I'd promised Coleman I'd be at the game. So what did I do? I 10-10-10'd it. In 10 minutes, when I would have told Coleman that I couldn't be at that ball game, what would he have thought? That's all right. She chooses her company again. She chooses that job again, right? And then I felt in 10 months, this 17-year-old child would have been trying a beverage he shouldn't drink, or driving a car too fast he shouldn't drive. But he said, that's all right, Mom, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So I'm going to do what I want to do. And then in 10 years, which is right about now, I feel like I would have been standing at that rehearsal dinner, and he'd have been looking across the room saying, you know what, I'm going to marry Caroline, and we're going to choose when my mom or dad get to see those wonderful grandchildren one day. So I made the right decision. In 10 minutes, I told our customer I couldn't be there. I needed to send another amazing female, Lauren, to go to that client that day. Lauren was there, not Joyce. In 10 months, we won Supplier of the Year based on the decision that Lauren made, not me. She made that decision for that customer. And in 10 years today, Eileen still services that amazing customer. So 10-10-10 is my tip today to you. How will this affect you in 10 minutes? How will this affect you in 10 months? And how will this affect you in 10 years? And last night on September the 28th, Coleman Russell was having a Ben & Jerry's ice cream cake and some Chinese food at my house last night because he chooses to come to my house on his birthday. That's my tip.
That is such a great story choice. That is absolutely one of my favorites. And I think it probably resonates with everybody having to make a tough decision in the moment and not knowing exactly how it's going to play out. Well, you guys have heard 5 great pieces of advice and some extra tidbits in there, but it's time to hear from you. So Natalie, I'm looking at the chat, but I also want to ask people if they feel more comfortable raising their hands, that they're welcome to do that. Do you guys have any questions for us?
So I am just, as someone said, my cup is really full. That was a lot of great advice. And the stories backing up why the advice is being given is incredible. And thank you, ladies, for each sharing so much. We are open to questions. So if you have a question, please, you can drop it in the chat if you don't want to speak. But if you would like to unmute, you do have the ability to unmute yourself to ask a question from any of these amazing leaders or all of them from the Adecco team. Even if you get one responding, we encourage our panelists, if you have something to share, you can drop it in the chat in support of the response being given today. So I know we don't have a shy group. I've been keeping my eyes on the chat too, and a lot of people have been receiving everything that you've said. They've commented very positively, but now we want to invite them to ask questions. So, oh, Lori, okay. Lori, did you have your hand raised?
I did. I just
Okay.
I thought I'd get people a little braver if they felt like they couldn't ask a question. So
Brave on, brave
yeah,
on.
brave
We have
on.
2 participants raising hands, but
And
certainly.
I will
please.
put my hand right down because I work with these lovely ladies every day. So my hand is not important. I would love to hear from the ladies who raise their hand.
Okay, Venice, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh God, I can't tell you how blessed I feel to be here to hear these stories. I was taking a walk and I had my phone with me and I couldn't register through my phone. And it was going to take me 15 minutes to get to my car and then 15 minutes to get home. And I said, I'm going straight home because I want to be sitting here to hear this. And I just feel so blessed. I just appreciate all of the stories. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We do have a question, and it's for anyone on the panel. How did you know when the right time was to take a risk and next step to advance your career? Especially, right, if we're comfortable and we've been in a position for a while, and there might just be something that we've gotten a glimpse of. How do you know when it's the right time?
I think any one of us can answer this question, but I think going back to my second point of, do you like the people? Are you going to learn something? And is it going to be fun? I think there's something to be said for being in the same role for a really long time and not regularly putting yourself in safe, risky places. So if you like the people and it's a learning opportunity, I think you need to do that every day. It's obviously a much bigger risk to change a role completely or change a job completely. But if you have these little micro learnings all the time that you're willing to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable in a safe way, you're much braver when that big opportunity comes along to throw your name in the hat and have people advocate for you. And like Janelle said, who's your posse going to be rooting you on for it? But I find that if you are always safe, changing jobs is super, super risky. Whereas if you take little micro risks all the time, where you have mastered your craft, you won't be as nervous about taking that big risk.
I think it's usually it's a gut check, right? I was in my role prior to the one I'm in for almost 15 years. And there was always that swirling notion that, there's more I can do, there's more I want to do. So that was a nagging feeling that kept essentially, punching me in the gut. And so I had to address it. So if you start to have that nagging feeling, kind of sit with yourself, kind of really define what it is that you're trying to achieve. And if you haven't achieved those things, creating a plan. My mom taught me that, right? If you have a plan, where there's a plan and where there's a will, there's a way. So creating that plan, but really looking inside of yourself and saying, have you fully evolved, right? Are you where you want to be for the next 10, 15 years? And if you're not, then it's time. It's time to explore. It's time to look whether that's internally in your own organization or externally. So you'll know. I think we need to trust our voices, and I think it rings loud and clear when it's time.
Thank you, Marcia. We have another question that's coming in, and I think this is a really important one. How do you find that advocate and cheerleader in a remote or hybrid position? This is really a tough question. And so I'll open it up to see if Janelle, Joyce, or Eileen, do you guys have a piece of advice for that?
I could jump in a little bit. I think when you are remote or hybrid, you miss out on some of the opportunities, obviously, that you might get organically that happen in the office. But I do think that there's still a different opportunity that you can embrace in terms of how you can interact with more people that you may have never met had you been in the office. So something when we really moved to remote working and we had so many people that were joining the organization and kind of scattered throughout the organization, that was new for us. And so we deliberately started to encourage people to schedule time, whether that was time blocks once a week where we had coffee chats, or we would encourage new people as part of their onboarding to reach out to 5 new people within the organization this week and introduce yourself. Sometimes we would have managers that would take that on themselves and say, hey, I'd like you to get to know these people. But I think that taking that into your own court and saying, who are the people that I need to meet? And if I don't have a natural way to meet them, where that feels a little bit off, who can I get to make that introduction for me? You have to work a little bit harder at it when you're remote than you are when you run into somebody in the hallway in the office. But I've actually seen deeper connections been made in a remote environment than even sometimes in the physical environment.
That's great advice. We have a ton of questions pouring in, so I'm going to keep them going so that we keep rolling. This is a good question. How do we make time as career women for ourselves, given that there's demands from family, from your job? I think a lot of these women are feeling probably like we do sometimes, a little burnt out or a little crispy on both ends. What is your best advice for making some time for yourself and how to do that?
I'd like to take that one because I saw there was a comment with children with disabilities. I have a child with learning disabilities, so can kind of relate to that. I think it goes back to giving yourself grace and giving yourself permission to take some downtime. And I look at it from my time in terms of, kids and everything that you're all talking about. And sometimes I just have to say, you know what, this afternoon, I'm going to read a book because I need this for me so I can be better for all of you. And I really do think it is giving yourself permission. It's been a very, it's been a conversation between my husband and I, between my kids and myself, between my parents, because they look and, you get the word selfish. I'm like, selfish? Are you kidding me? I just worked 40 hours. We did all of this other things together, and I want 3 hours to sit in a bubble bath on a Friday night, have a glass of wine, and read a book. How is that being selfish? So I think we have to give ourselves permission to give ourselves time. And you have to intentionally, just like I said, intentionally say you're going to coach or do the room on. You have to intentionally say, you know what? This time is for me. And then you have to have people in your life that are going to understand that. You have to work to get people in your life to understand that and be intentional about that understanding too. Because I've had a lot of discussions with my husband about, and I was like, wait, push back. I'm sorry. You've done this, this, and this with your friends. I don't get that, but this is what I do for me time. So I think you have to be the boss of yourself too. And sometimes that's hard to be the boss because again, you're being selfish, but you're not being selfish. It allows you to be a better person for everybody else that you're supporting.
Lane, can I just piggyback on that really quick? So totally agree with Eileen. I'm not so good at that, but I totally agree with you. I would say too, there are times when your life is out of balance. And so caring for aging parents, caring for disabled children. I know some of us on this call, myself included, lost a parent during COVID and had a child that was in distress. And there are times that your life is just not in balance. And I think, again, I go back to like, what can you do in a micro way if really there is not an opportunity to give yourself time for whatever it might be? And those micro times can be listening to a meditation that quiets your mind as you're drifting off to sleep. That might only be 10 minutes and you're already in bed for the evening, so that you can have less fitful dreams. That can be a little micro training, because there are times when your life is out of balance. And I think the other thing for me is I know this too shall pass. And so yes, I totally agree with Eileen. I love everything you said. There's also times where you don't have an opportunity to take a few hours for yourself. And how do you get through it? Because it will pass. So I think micro trainings helped me in the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah, I love that, Lori. Was reading about mental health last night, how we have to get away from these computers and get up and walk around. And ladies, honestly, some of my self-care is maintenance, right? Going to get your nails done or something. You know, when you're having to show up like this, you've got to look professional because you're missing opportunities hybridly or remotely. When you show up, you want to show up just like you were showing up at the office. So I might spend that time on a Saturday getting my hair cut or getting your nails done or something that I'm 100% girl. So, you know, I like to do those things. So, you know, you have to work those things in, but it's like we said earlier, sometimes it's more like this. I too had an aging parent and lost them recently, and that was a lot of time, right? But I voted with my time. You vote with your time, ladies. Each and every day you vote. Biggest rocks in the jar. What's most important?
I don't see any hands up, but we want to keep those questions coming. But real quick on that, Joyce, I have a question, and it kind of builds on that. And it's the idea of investing in yourself, not just making time for yourself, but investing in yourself. Do you guys have some advice on what steps you've taken to invest in yourself in both your career or your personal life?
I can talk to that. I mean, I know echoing the sentiments here, I think it's finding something that's going to bring you joy. And for me, and also I have a child that had severe ADHD, so single mom child that had some learning challenges. And so I was a frequent visitor to the school. I kept all my pink slips because I'm going to show it to him when he's an adult to showcase, you know, what mama had to go through. But exercise for me was my release. And I was not someone that would wake up in the morning, but it was the only time I could do it. So, you know, I was a night person, but I started doing CrossFit at 5 a.m. And just the way it essentially set up my day, my mind, if I could get through that workout, I knew I could get through the day. So I was investing in me and my health because I knew it was going to be important because I knew I was the single caregiver to my son. So if I'm not right, he's not going to be right. So I think investing in yourself physically is important and making that time. So, you know, I know we talk about selfish and self-care. We can call it self-care-ish. You know, care for yourself and your mental stability, physical stability, and make time for it. So thankfully at the time, like I mentioned before, going through a divorce, I have a strong family support system. And I was living with my parents when I came back, starting over. So that's the only reason why I could go at 5 a.m. Having a child at home. So that way an adult was there to watch them. So that's what I would recommend on that side.
Awesome.
Lane, could I add something to that?
Sure.
So I think even those of you being present today are investing in yourself. I think we can talk about investment from a self-care perspective, but also investing in ways that you can move your career forward and learn new things and take that time to really bolster what you want to be doing next. So I give you all huge applause for being here today, because I think you're all voting with your time and you're investing in yourself just by being here today.
Lane, there's a question that keeps popping over in the chat about outplacement services. And I don't know, Lori, if you might be the best person to talk about that, but I'm going to tell a story. The question in the chat is, how is best to use outplacement services? So I have a little bit of a story. I sit in downtown Charlotte. One of my good friends was the head of procurement over at Bank of America. And Bank of America many years ago went through a downsizing, and she was super upset, you all. She had moved there to our city from Phoenix, and then she comes here and she gets downsized, like super upsetting. But she took outplacement services, and what happened was through that outplacement services, she took an opportunity with an energy company in Tennessee to get a higher level job. And then she got outplaced there and took a higher level job. So I think with outplacement services, you need to look at all those different opportunities that are going to come your way and think about it from an abundance mentality as this is a bad situation that happened, but just put a cherry on top of that situation and say, I'm going to go and do more. But Lori, I know that your business unit leads outplacement services. We own, I think, the largest outplacement company in the world and do a great job. So anything else to add on around outplacement, how to make the best from that decision of being outplaced and then getting services?
So I think the number one thing is to mentally get your head around having been outplaced and then really look at those services as an opportunity, because not every company pays for those services. And so the first thing is, how do you get yourself in a mental space for your job search and recognize that your company is giving you those services as a gift? Because the reality is many companies choose not to pay for those services. And so there's just a pink slip, there's a layoff, there's a whatever it is. But if your company is paying for the outplacement services, they believe in you, they just can't afford you anymore. And so they want you to be successful. So if you look at it from that perspective, instead of looking at it from a personal perspective, which I'm not suggesting is easy to do. I know that's not easy to do, but recognize they are continuing to invest in you. They cannot afford you. I almost feel like it's like giving a child up for adoption because you want what's best for the person, and you can't service them yourself anymore. You can't help their career grow anymore. The company is in trouble. And so they're saying, you know what, we're going to invest in these people that invested in our organization, even after they've left us. So if you change the story of why you have these outplacement services and how your company feels about you, that they gave them to you, then I think you can take the resources in a different mindset of take the assessments and figure out, are you even in the right industry? If your brain works like a data-driven person and you have been in a role that doesn't use data at all, they have all kinds of assessments from Hogan or Berkman or all kinds of things to help you find your right spot. And they want to help you. And your company is giving you that gift. So take full advantage. Don't just see it as somebody who's going to help me write a resume. This is a time for you to dig deeper into where do you want to go. And maybe like Marcia, you do a complete left turn and it ends up leading you to a panel like this. So really take advantage of those services. But the first thing is mentally, can you get yourself to see it as a gift? Because if you can't, you're not in the right headspace to take advantage of it. Great question, Joyce. Or whoever asked it, sorry. Joyce asked me, but somebody else asked it.
That's fantastic advice, Lori. And this question actually builds on that same type of idea. Somebody asked, I am not seeing new opportunities, but I'm constantly hearing there are new jobs out there. Any advice on how to do better research to see what those opportunities are and get a different career?
Well, I say LinkedIn is your best friend. LinkedIn is where to be when it comes to career, business. So I would use that as your starting point in your research. See what opportunities and job openings do exist. Set your profile to open to job opportunities in your profile settings so they understand and know. And make sure that your LinkedIn profile truly reflects who you are, what you do, what experience you bring to the table so that people in tandem can find you. But use that as your research platform. Look up open jobs. It'll actually task or align things that do align to your current profile. But if you're looking to step outside of what you're currently doing, again, there's a wealth of information on there just from the simple tab search to find out what openings exist, and then start looking up to see if those companies align with what your passion, your objectives, and what you want to pursue.
Great advice. Here's a good question about something that I think everybody probably has experienced on this panel. What do you do when the job that you've taken has changed or is not what you expected? How do you address that with both probably personally? Do you talk to your boss or do you just go ahead and look for a different opportunity? What are the steps that you guys have taken?
I think communication's key. I would definitely talk to your boss and have an authentic, transparent conversation about what you thought the role was going to be, where what you're seeing and experiencing now, and seeing if there's a way to expand it, change it, or address it in some way, shape, or form. So I would start there. That would be my advice.
Yeah, Marcia, great advice. Communicate, 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 just like location, location, location. I always hate when I find out something like, gosh, I wish somebody would just talk to me. I was just messing up, not on purpose, you know? So like, I think that's a great place to start. Janelle also put something in the chat, like when someone was looking for work, just like I did, I looked for a temporary job, right? I mean, when you think that you can try temporary work with Google and Cisco and Apple and Bank of America and UPS, like you all, there are so many opportunities out there. And a lot of times temp goes to perm, try before you buy or date before you get married. I mean, come on, you know, if you're married, you probably dated. So got to start somewhere. So show them who you are. So I would definitely look for one of those roles temporarily and possibly full-time as well. So
I just want to give one piece of advice that was given to me early on in my career. I was doing what I thought was grunt and busy work compared to what the job description was. And I was really frustrated. And I went to my boss at the time and said, I thought you hired me to do A, B, and C, but I feel like what I'm really doing is not my skill set, not where I want my career to go, and not what I felt like I applied for. And the person said to me, I need to know that you take the grunt tasks as seriously as you take writing a brief or editing something for me. It was in law firms. And I never forgot him saying that. So sometimes people are putting you through your paces for your work ethic, but I totally agree with Marcia. You have to communicate that this is not okay, because if you don't, they may even be testing you like, are you okay with that work? Can they get away with it? And so sometimes there's a test. I've worked with a lot of leaders many leaders who want to test people for whatever they're, before they're 100% bought in. And so they may be testing you for whatever reason before they're really willing to give you the real work that you were hired to do, but absolutely communicate that you're aware that you're not doing what you were hired to do.
I love that, Lori. I also say, you know, I always tell the boss, I can help you a lot more than just this. You know, I think I could help you be a lot more successful if I could do this work too.
Just have to advocate for yourself and speak up and over communicate at times. And that's why I say sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone. But I promise, if you know that you've said your piece and taken whatever's inside of you and put it out there, you know, whatever comes of it will be good. Even if it means you have to leave that role to pursue another one, because you got to live with your decisions and your choices, and you want them to be all your choices, not someone else's choices.
Thank you, Marcia. All right, Claudia, I see you have a hand up, and this may be the last question we have time to get to, so I want to make sure that we address your question. Over to you.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate you doing this. And my question is, I know, at least for myself, you know, I don't apply to jobs that I don't have the experience for. And I know women are known for that, right? Men will apply for a job that they're not ready, quote unquote, ready for. But women will be almost overqualified when they actually apply for another position. I have a lot of experience, but I don't have supervisory experience in the workforce, and I'm looking to get into that, but it's very difficult for me to find a way in. Do you have any suggestions on how do we position ourselves to be in a situation where we don't have that experience in order to get it?
So I can take this, and I'm sure everybody else on the panel, so I'll go quick in case other people want to jump in. First and foremost, apply to a job that you want to do, even if it's to expand your skill set. So first off, apply. What is it? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so apply. So that's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is if you have mastered your skill set, you have been a leader in your own organization. You might just not have had people officially reporting to you. So think about the times that you mentored or sponsored or trained people and get that into your skill set on your resume. But I know that I am not the only one on this panel with advice, so I'm going to stop talking.
I also think, I don't know what your personal situation is, but think about some personal situations where you may have supervised, whether it's your nieces and nephews or, different parts of the organization. I love moms when they're coming back into the workforce because I haven't done so much, but I'm like, well, you've run a household and you've run kids. That's good project management and time management. So I'm sure we can find something for you to do. So think outside of the box. It might not be I've supervised 10 people on a shift or something, but think about where you have had that leadership in your own personal life and kind of how that transcends into being an empathetic leader, being a good listener, willing to compromise, not being afraid to have a hard conversation, some of those skills that are required when you are in that type of supervisory capacity. So think about some things that transfer in your personal life.
I love that, Eileen. I think I was going to say the same thing, and I love that. I see a couple of people in the chat, Lane, that are coming to see an Adecco recruiter in the next couple of weeks. And just so you know, this Dress for Success family is very important to the Adecco Group. We love you women. We want to help you. So I think you need to let us know in the chat what market you're going to, because we might give you some special attention. I'm just saying, because we don't work with every organization, but we are passionate about our work with you all and helping more and more women elevate, because we know when we elevate you, we're elevating many more, and you'll help many more. You'll pay it forward. So please let us know, Lane, how we can help if someone's seeing a recruiter in our markets.
Thank you so much, Joyce. That's 100% true. And that's exactly where I was going. I know we're at the top of the hour. So our 5 pieces of advice are listed here. Ask yourself those 3 questions. Be brave and get that circle of trust established. Your network is your net worth. Be the leader, not the assistant. And remember 10, 10, 10. And I know Natalie and her team are always taking questions to direct it to us, but we also have a link here for you, and I will drop it in the chat. If you have not already asked to be in touch with us, please, please, please click this link, fill out this form. We are taking time over the next week to make sure that we're aligning you with the right businesses and markets. If you need a new job, or if you want to just talk with a career consultant and get some other questions asked. Thank you for voting with your time today, to use a Joyce Russell adage. And Natalie, I will pass it back to you to go ahead and wrap the session and end.
Well, Lane, I think you've said it all. I'm a little concerned about my job security here, because you've just got it all covered. We are so thankful to all of our speakers today. If you learned one thing, please give them an emoji, a heart, a clap, or drop in the chat. But promise yourself to do something different. Run with one of these tips. If this inspired you to come up with one of your own, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others, because when women share, things happen, things change. So we want to say thank you for being here today. Thank you again to our team from Adecco. In every part of the organization, we have had representation, we've had advice, we've had learning. And now it is up to us to be the leader, not the assistant, make our network work. Ask those honest questions, not to be afraid, and move forward. So thanks, everyone. We look forward to seeing you. Otherwise, a copy of the recording will be in the community. And please use the link that Lane has dropped in the chat for ongoing questions and help. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.